Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. As we predicted, Trump won. Now, the next 100 days is probably the most important part of the beginning of his administration, and who he picks to do what is going to be even more imperative. Usually the transition time tells you a lot about his desires and how he will implement those desires. First of all and foremost is the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff literally is the gatekeeper of the White House. It's a person who has to be extremely close to the president, someone who can always tell the president he's wrong, he's not right, correct him, and be able to steer him on a road where implementation overrides anything to do with self-aggrandizement or publicity. In this case, I would nominate Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Trump. And the reason I say that is because he has been a very discreet young individual who's been very professional, stayed in the background, and kept quiet. His fingerprints were not evident, but the outcome of his fingerprints were very much evident. He brought in Priebus of the RNC, and he brought in Bannon of Breitbart. Both those gentlemen did a great job in bringing Trump to the forefront. However, I think they're too polarizing to give them their own positions. I would suggest that each individual, Breitbart and Priebus, have a special assistant role or counselor to the president, and that would be sufficient. Let's now go on to the Secretary of Defense, one of the most important positions because it was abused by the former administrations over 30 years. My suggestion is David Petraeus, four-star general who's been out of the limelight for the past 5 to 7 years, and I think he would make an excellent Secretary of Defense because he knows the inward workings of both the military and the civilian part and the intelligence. That's up to him. I do not want Steve Hadley or Zalmay Khalilzad or John Bolton anywhere near this administration. They are the neocons. They are the people who worked with Cheney, with Bush. They were involved in 9/11, the stand down, and the false flags. Let's go on to the Secretary of State. In my opinion, Newt Gingrich, who's been very intelligent and very smart and very outward in terms of his defense of the president, is very much suited to be the next president of the United States. He knows foreign policy, he knows the issues that are at hand, he knows how to work in transcultural situations, and I think he will make an excellent State Department Secretary of State. Secretary of Treasury will probably go to either Icahn or Steve Mnuchin. Both of them are very close friends of Trump. Steve Mnuchin was a senior executive at Goldman Sachs for 14 years, and at the same time, he was the senior official for finances for Trump on the presidential committee. Carl Icahn would make a great U.S. trade representative who would renegotiate the trade agreements if he feels that they have to be renegotiated, or if they have to be modified, he knows how to modify them. The Justice Department would go to Giuliani, who knows the justice very well. He would become Attorney General. He's a very strong prosecutor, and I think the issue of where Clinton will or will not be indicted has to reside with Giuliani. As for Secretary of HHS, Health Human Services, I would strongly recommend Dr. Ben Carson, a medical doctor, an outstanding neurosurgeon from Johns Hopkins, who at the same time should be the Surgeon General of the Public Health Service, which is a quasi-military organization, which we do need in order of an outbreak of Zika virus, Ebola, and they had not performed very well in the past. As for Director of National Intelligence and the CIA, I would recommend Michael Flynn, former Lieutenant General of the Defense Intelligence Agency. I think he would be an outstanding choice in compiling both the CIA and military intelligence into one unit. In short, I want those 16 intelligence units contracted and made smaller so that they become more effective. And I want the CIA to convert back to being a human organization and not a drone warfare unit. In turn, I think Kelly Ayotte has been very effective as a senator, and as a prosecutor in New Hampshire, I think she should get Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of the Interior, or Secretary of Agriculture. I think it's up to the Trump organization. Again, Those are the people that we've talked about. Those are the issues that have to be a concern, and we will discuss what he should and shouldn't do in the next blog. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. America.